everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are building a habitat for the Chinese pangolin. Today is World Pangolin Day. So yeah, these were a little different. We went from the hippos, which are one of the biggest animals, to the pangolins, which are probably one of the smallest habitat animals in this game. They're very tiny. I built way too big of an exhibit, which I'm fine with. But I tried to do something a little different, and you'll kind of notice I check and recheck, and I notice that the pangolins, they say that guests can enter the zoo or enter the habitat. So I haven't done anything to explore that mechanic at all before. I haven't seen a build for it. I haven't looked at a tutorial at all for it. I was just kind of curious to see how that would go. And you can kind of see here, I'm like checking, like climbable, not climbable, how high, like all that kind of stuff. So I went ahead and, built the guest doors through it with like a little path through, but they only use one door, which I wasn't 100% sure if that was due to you were only supposed to have one exhibit door, or if it was just because it was easier to turn around and go back out the same door. So I had built like this little pathway through, and then partway through I noticed the pangolins, they kept giving me messages that they were super stressed. And so I had built them a few more hiding places and stuff, and I had put some more rocks and ground coverage in so they could kind of hide a little bit, but I wasn't really sure. Like the error message was that they were trying to escape and couldn't. Like they didn't want to be that close to the people. Ultimately, it was too much for them. It was, which I was very torn to start with. If I wanted to, I was kind of thinking, well, it would be a kind of a good experience, have a talking point in the exhibit and really, let guests have that up close and personal look with it. But the pangolins just can't handle that. I mean, they might be able to, but they literally would not want to be they don't want to be that close to people. So it would have to be worked differently than how I had worked it initially. And again, like I said, they only use the one gate, so I'm thinking I just totally whiffed the premise of this. I was really thinking like, oh, this would be so cool if I could build like a super pretty like tropical jungle garden type deal and have the pangolins go through. And then I was like, whoa, they're literally crossing this pathway I made. So I think I messed it up by trying to make it a pathway instead of just like a standing room spot. Like I think there is a way for me to do it with the pangolins, but I was just not thinking about it at the time I made it. Hindsight is, hindsight's 2020. Oh my goodness, it started to snow. So this zoo is 7 years old at this point, and this is the first time it snowed. And I have all African animals, so I was kind of like in panic mode, like, ah, nuts. They're all gonna be frozen. So I had to skedaddle my butt over and get some heaters for everybody. Everybody needed heaters. And and the heaters take a minute to warm up, so it takes a minute for the animals to be happy again. That was just dumb on my part. I knew it was in a temperate zone, and I hadn't gotten the heater set up. I totally spaced on it with, it not snowing for, like I said, literally 7 years at this point. It hadn't snowed. So I got the animals all squared away and happy again, and then went back to finishing the pangolins. So yeah, it turns out, by the way, that pangolins are like hunted for their scales because like traditional medicines use them at one point, and so that's still like a big thing, I guess. So that was interesting to learn. And that's the thing, like doing this is really, because it's not like I just build. Oh yeah, and then the zebras wanted to inbreed, so I was like, oh man. Because I wanted to do it right, so a herd is one male with a bunch of females. But in the wild, like, they'd go off and find a mate, right? I don't know. So I ended up, well, at first I sterilized the dad, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's silly. So I ended up sterilizing, or not sterilizing, but applying contraception, which I'm not really sure what this game means by that. I haven't really looked into the whole how do zoos do and do not encourage mating. That's not something I've ever really researched much on. And like if you go to a zoo, they just tell you that the animals are part of the breeding program or not. Like they don't tell you, generally speaking. So then ultimately I just decided that the young female zebra could go be released into the wild. So I had ended up doing that after a little while. But yeah, the pangolins were an interesting build. And like I had been looking how other people had, because I knew they were tiny compared to other animals, but I wasn't sure like how other people approach that kind of habitat. And I guess a lot of people build like an indoor habitat for them, which, yeah, no, I didn't really want to build an indoor habitat for them. I didn't want to build them that kind of setup. I wanted them, to be out. Outside. They're animals. They should be outside. That's sort of how I was feeling about it. So, I mean, obviously some animals need to be inside because it's easier, to regulate temperature control or whatever, but especially in a temperate zone, so maybe it would have been kinder to make an indoor exhibit for them, but I just went with the outdoor typical exhibit. The silly animal talks. The animal talks are always inaccessible, but they're not inaccessible, so I don't know. I don't know how to fix them at all. So, I do like that it's alright to put the animal in the exhibit first, and then I have to get better with my terraining. It just, a lot of the time it ends up being like just patches of dirt, patches of sand, patches of rock, patches of grass. It doesn't really have much cohesivity to it, and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at all. And just the overall plant coverage too. But I did like building with this tropical palette because I could use these pretty pinky purple flowers, and I liked them. So, but yeah, my pangolins were happy and chilling, and then all of a sudden they were not happy and chilling. And like I said, I just had to get rid of the walkway. I think I'm gonna research a little bit how to do guest interactions and how to let guests enter the habitats. But I don't know what other animals can even have guests enter the habitats. Like, I was a little surprised to see the pangolins could, given that they were just naturally very shy. But yeah, that was just where we were at with it. But yeah, the pangolins were an interesting little animal to research and build a habitat for. So yeah, this is the part where they're like, they're super stressed. So I was like, well, I mean, I haven't built rocks or anything. So I was like, oh, well, do they need another shelter? Like, I'll give them a shelter. And realistically, they just need to not be on the path. But because I was so super brilliant with my ideas and made the path go all the way through the exhibit, they were screwed, right? So hindsight 2020, and you know, thinking about your mistakes after the fact, like, oh, I probably should not have a path through. Like, it's not a butterfly garden. I mean, I don't know. I was playing with the rocks a little bit. I haven't really built with the mossy rock. Like, I haven't built tropical, really. Like, the bonobos were the first time I really built anything tropical. And it was still like the African in nature. So it was a little similar to the zebras, but this is totally different. I hadn't really done an Asian tropical animal before, so that was cool. I like getting to see the different animals, and like I said, like, this gives me something to really like focus on and learn about different animals and see what this game has to offer a little bit more. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the series. I know it's been a lot in a little amount of time. And it's weird because the next day is International Polar Bear Day, which I will say that one's probably gonna be different because I started that prior to creating the zoo, and I put a lot of work into a polar bear sanctuary, so I might just continue with that and show you guys that what I built for that instead of building polar bears here. And then we don't really have like another animal day until like a month later, like the end of March. I think there's like a frog day, World Frog Day, I think. So it's weird how it's set up. Like, it's not really like spread out nicely. So like I said, I'll try to have them out on time, and I'll try to provide a fun fact or something, or you know, the websites that I provide are pretty much the go-to information for it. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. There's a few more minutes left to this video. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.